Hello everyone and welcome to AOE Sports and our coverage of Ascent. We're into week 3 and we're giving you this Division 1 match between what the names? It was Divine and it was TLB Samurais and they have actually renamed. So still gonna be the same team, but I am Geo Phoenix. With me is Peronius and Peronius, it's been a while. How you doing, man?
Not too bad, not too bad yourself.
Been doing quite well and I'm very much looking forward to this series we have here tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game between Divine here and Vanquish, formerly known as the TLB Samurais. We will be starting off things here on Lijiang Tower, of course, and it looks like we will be heading into Night Market as our first map.
It's going to be an interesting start to this series. We're just going to keep on going until one team gets 3 maps. Kind of stock standard way to deal with things here, as we just wait for teams to get ready to open the gates. See what kind of compositions they're going to be running out with, because it looks like for Vanquish they are running with almost the 3-3 composition, but with the Reaper to go alongside it, whereas on the other side we've got the much more standard at this point 3-3, as they do manage to get their way to the point ahead of time. And now this is time for Vanquish to try and make their way onto the point. Erlen gets stunned up, does manage to go into the Wraith form to try and get himself out of there. They do manage to get a good kill onto Kyun, but they are out of position. But now they do try and get the re-engagement. They force them out onto the balconies, but they do end up losing their major damage dealer in Erlen, and now they have to be very careful with how to play the rest of this out. Dr. Mackerel does get taken down, and it's looking like the fight is starting to go completely in favor of the red side, and they clean up this first fight and get first tick at the point.
Absolutely, Divine coming in clutch there. They lost their main tank first, and that is a disastrous start to the fight. But getting the trade kill onto Olam on the Reaper is absolutely key, as it really knocks down the biggest damage source able to come at them from Vanquish. And so from there, they are able to trade up and win out the fight in the end. Now we're going to have a pair of rallies popped here as the next fight gets underway.
Yeah, and they are using the speeders to come straight in. Here comes the sound barrier to keep the team nice and healthy. And throughout all of that, they do manage to take down their opposing Brigitte, and this will knock out a lot of the bite out of this blue team lineup. And they are forced all the way back. They have to reset.
Yeah, big plays there from Dr. Meme, getting those last 2 final blows there, and it's perhaps no surprise we've got ultimates online for Dr. Meme, but in fact, most of the players in the game here now, looking at their ultimates, the next fight is really going to come down to who initiates first and gets the big plays. But we are going to see a bit of a flank maneuver coming in from Vanquish. There they come.
Ooh, all's coming out on both sides. We've got the couple of kills going over to the side of Vanquish, and this is a good start to the fight. And it looks like they're just going to be able to keep on rolling this through. The remaining members of Divine are trying to stick around, but they're not long for this world. And that's a very clean fight going over to the side of Vanquish.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well played by there, and they've managed to do it very cheaply as well. They've still got the Death Blossom, the Grav, and the Sound Barrier online, so they're in a good position here. They've won the fight and used less ultimates to do it. So this next fight should be an easy win for them. There's the Grav.
Yeah, they try and get in there, but they're just not able to do so. It's a good responding Earthshatter does manage to shut out a lot of the offense, and throughout all this, ultimates being thrown out by Vanquish, they're not really able to get too much out of it, as this fight is just going to keep on continuing throughout this narrow corridor, as it looks like Tiger Bro is able to get a good kill onto Kyon, manages to open up that backline. They finally managed to break that hold.
Absolutely. So, in the end, a lot of ultimates were used by Divine trying to break out of there, but not able to get through. Ultimately, it's still looking very good for Vanquish here. They've still got ult advantage in their favour. We've got another Earthshatter up for Dr. Michelle, so that is going to be absolutely clutch for keeping this offense bottled up here.
Yeah, and here comes the rally for the side of Divine. They have to really make their approaches really matter. A good Earthshatter puts them to the ground, and they are throwing pretty much everything into this play. But throughout all that, they just keep on swinging around with that hammer. Dr. Mackerel is doing so much work with this Reinhardt, cleans up yet another fight, and this is looking pretty damn good for Vanquish.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I do have to wonder why they've used both the Shatter and the Graviton there at the same time. Perhaps a bit of miscommunication there. They probably didn't need to commit both ultimates. On the same time, Dr. Michelle already 50% up to her next Shatter. So a very good opening there.
Oh, here comes the Grav into the Mech Explosion. Does take down the front line in the Reinhardt, but they do end up losing one in return as the Death Blossom does come out. Doesn't get too much thanks to the defense matrix. Do manage to take down the responding Reinhardt, and they're not even able to get to the point. They do manage to finally get the Lucio able to just skate around to tick it into overtime, but they are losing members left, right, and center. This looks like the first round is going to go over to Vanquish.
Yeah, the Olam is just wandering around on this Reaper, completely uncontested, just putting those Hellfire shotguns into people's faces and pulling the trigger. And that is going to mean that Divine are just not able to get control of this point back, and Vanquish will go up one over in there. They do need to do something to respond to this Reaper, because you just can't let it rove around and inflict massive damage on your team like that.
It's kind of like the theory come to life when it comes to Reaper in these, or going up against these 3-3 compositions, because of the damage output. We've seen it throughout that whole round. Is that once Erlam is able to get into that good position, is able to keep safe throughout it, the damage output is just a little bit too much for the 3-3 to deal with. Well, the healing is, and the durability is there, but they just don't really have a good way to respond unless they just stun him out and lock him out.
That said, it looks like Olam will be going over to the Zarya here, so we are going to have, well, not quite mirrored against Zen Goats, as Haiju actually going over to the McCree, probably as an answer to that Reaper. So some successful mind games there if that is the case. We are going to have the early clash here in the white room.
Yeah, we do have a charge forward, and it does split off the Reinhardts as they do end up being the first ones down on both sides. But it looks like Vanquish are going to be the ones in the advantage as they have got position, advanced position around the point. As it looks like Divine are trying to make their way through, but with Reinhardt's down on both sides, they have to be very careful, both sides, about how they play around the rest of this fight.
Yeah, it looks like point contest does come in at the last minute from Jammers on the Lucio, but only for a matter of time, and that point will be taken over. That said, a lot of ultimates coming out here from the part of Divine to try and flip that through. They've committed the Graviton. They are pushing through, and they are pushing hard. I say a lot of ultimates. It really just was the Graviton, but given that that was the first fight of the game, that is, to an extent, a lot of ultimates, but nonetheless, we will have a point flip at 15% here.
Yeah, and that's a very quick and clean flipping of that point. Didn't really give up too much, and Tafuki, should they be able to get that charged up, a second Graviton charged up in a rather efficient manner, won't be missing out too much as they are coming in for their first defense, whereas they do have Graviton coming in first side from Olam as Jarmaz does manage to take Calsation right off the map, so that is going to completely stunt this attack before it can even get started. As Covenant does manage to get the charge as they are able to just roll all the way through.
Yeah, the moment that Lucio went down, the call for the reset was made, but unfortunately without the Lucio, it is so hard to get out safely, and Jarmaz just hit the accelerator for his team, and they just rolled over the members of Vanquish there. So already point up to 45%, and once again, looks like we are going to see Vanquish attacking from the White Room again. This time they need to make some headway.
Yeah, but this time there are a lot more ultimates coming in for the side of Divine. Here comes the Graviton Surge. Shadow goes out as well, but the Transcendence is keeping a lot of people alive as the kill feed is looking very red as Jarmaz is actually just filling it up single-handedly as they just completely wipe Vanquish off the map.
Yeah, Vanquish are really struggling to make headway there. They've lost their grab, but thankfully they didn't commit anything else with it. So they've still got a fair few tools now. And in this upcoming fight, they have a lot of defensive tools to try and outlast. That said, Tafiki still has their own grab there, and Jarmaz still has the sound barrier. So it's still not a guaranteed fight win, but they absolutely do need to win this fight if they want to bring this back.
Yeah, they do have the rally up, so they are going to be a little bit healthier as the sound barrier does come out in response. Here comes a Graviton and also a Mech Explosion. Doesn't get too much out of it, and a lot of it is just used to kind of create space, but throughout all of this, the point is still ticking up in favor of Divine. They do end up trading 1-for-1 at the start of this. It is now ticking into overtime, and Earthshatter comes out and puts all of Vanquish down on the ground, and they just completely clean up as Hygeia is able to just... It is kind of like fish in a barrel when they're all on the ground like that, as they manage to take this second round, and we are going to a third round here, Peronius.
Absolutely, and we really saw Divine fix some of their earlier problems in the first round there. They played together a lot better, and they were just not giving Vanquish an inch. They did not give them an inch because they knew if they give Vanquish any room at all, Vanquish will run with it. And but yeah, they just absolutely would not allow it. It basically didn't lose a fight on there. The point flip did go through early in favor of Vanquish there, but that was really more because Vanquish got the better initial positioning. But yeah, it's in that whole round, Divine basically doesn't lose a team fight, and that sends us into control here, into the control center rather, and it looks like we will be having dueling maze here from both teams.
Interesting thing to note is that in the 2 rounds previously, the teams that were running the 3-3 compositions ended up losing. It was the Reaper that made the difference in round 1, the McCree doing a lot of work in round 2, and in round 3 we got maze on both sides, and control of space is going to be incredibly important as Tiger Bro is going to be the first one to go down, but does get traded back immediately. We got a lot more damage on the board from both sides here. And it looks like it is going to be Divine with advanced positioning on the point, as Tafiki does manage to take down Logical, and that's a nice bit of staggering, so you have a little bit more time to work with.
Absolutely. It's always big to get that parting shot onto the enemy Zarya. That means their charges reset, they're coming back, having to build up their energy from the get-go, which is going to slow down their progress on the ultimate as well. So Tafiki already out in front in the Graviton War, and looks like they're going to be able to extend that lead. Ooh, Wall doesn't quite manage to cut things off as the fight gets underway.
Yeah, they are doing a lot of damage. The Maze are on the front line being a big nuisance, as Olam is actually going to take down Kion, and that is going to essentially call the retreat for Divine. Had to be very careful. They cannot stand. Or they do get a good splitting apart of the team. They do get a lot of control down onto Dr. Mackerel. Does manage to get taken down. A good Graviton, but the good Wall manages to split off a lot of the follow-up, but they do manage to get around it and clean it up. Oh, Death Blossom comes out, but gets interrupted immediately by MacMan, and that is going to be a bit of a waste there for Vanquish, as they throw a fair bit into the plate, but they just get nothing out of it.
Yeah, you've got to feel that one as well, because it wasn't just a Death Blossom either, that was a Nano Death Blossom, and it was shut down immediately. But there's a great wall there coming out from Tiger Bro. Are they able to follow through? No, the follow-through isn't able to break through Kyun, so that front line that was split off does manage to back off in retreat. It's going to come down to the Mayods here, and here they come into play.
Yeah, here comes one of the Blizzards. It comes out of Tiger Bro. Does manage to get MacMan, so that is the Brigitte out of the way, but in the responding the Blizzard might as well be a death storm there, as they do manage to clean up the rest of the fight. The Earthshatter did get used from the side of Vanquish, but didn't really get much out of it because of the incredible zoning potential of that Blizzard.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're just going over to a quick pause here. Looks like one of the players has DC'd, but this is not looking good for the members of Vanquish here. For a start, it was one of their players that has DC'd. It looks like they have lost their who would that be? That'd be the Lucio. So they've lost their sound barrier ult percentage here. And
Hmm.
on top of that, they are still having a bit of an uphill battle. That said, they have managed to get a lot of ultimates out of Divine on that last push. The only tool that Divine have at the moment is Jarmez's sound barrier. They've got to grab up, but unfortunately, the sound barrier will counteract that. If they're able to pressure Jarmez and force the sound barrier out early, then they may be able to flip the point back and win that next team fight with that grab. At the same time, they do have to worry about taking too long to initiate because Tafiki's at 62%. And with the amount of damage that Tafiki has been putting out on this high charge Zarya, it's only a matter of time if they take too long. And of course, at 76% on the point, they've really only got one fight left to do it. So there's a lot of dangerous win conditions here. At least the pause has come through at the end of a fight during cleanup, so that's not going to affect too much how the next few seconds unfold when we do start this one up. But yeah, not a great position to be playing from for Vanquish, but they do have a path to victory if they can seize it.
Yeah, there are a lot of the usual avenues and doors kind of closing on them. There might be a few windows that they can crawl through, maybe to get uh, some positioning around the point. But as you mentioned, there's so many things that are going against them. They've used a couple of ultimates just for this fight that just happened, that they were not able to get anything out of it. We saw Tiger Bro throw out the Blizzard early. They did manage to take down MacMan, but the rest of the team was able to essentially retreat and then respond just as strongly because they were just in a better position to really shut out the offense. And it feels like the Blizzard is much better at when you're on the defensive side, just waiting for your opponents to walk into it rather than trying to use it as like an initiation tool.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be really hard to land that initiation blizzard because you don't want to overshoot the defense and have it appear too far and they're behind where they're unaffected, but you don't want to undershoot either and have them able to just pull back out of it and set up their defense 5 meters closer to the point. So really hard to nail that one, and of course some really great May walls during that blizzard coming out from Hydra on the defense, just to really deny the ability to follow up on that properly. Just I think both Mays played their walls really nicely through the blizzards, but unfortunately Hygia once again comes out on top, and there's just not enough done to be able to follow through on that. The defense able to hold off once again.
Yeah, another one of those situations where it's a little bit easier to play when you're in the lead and you have all these different tools and avenues to work with, whereas Tiger Bro doing the best with what they can. Like, the situations aren't really favorable to try and play the Mei into a team like Divinity, who have been Divine, who have been doing so well, picking apart members. We saw earlier where the Maywall was able to split apart the front line. Dr. Mackerel was just completely locked out and got taken out before the rest of the team could get anywhere close to him. So the coordinator play out of Divine, especially around the Mei and the Mei walls, has been incredibly good.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to wonder here if Tiger Bro actually does swap off the May as we get things started up again. Given that they no longer have the Blizzard available, and given how difficult it is to attack with that May, are we going to expect a hero swap out of them, or are they going to commit to this?
It looks like they're going to be sticking with the Mei. They need to really rush to get there. It's up to 90%. They don't have a lot of time to play the slow and methodical approach. They do have Olam making their way to the point. It's up to 98. They're trying to lock them out, but it is onto overtime. As you mentioned, the Graviton comes out, but they don't manage to get anything out of it. Here comes the responding Graviton. That is locking up so many members as Tafigi, as you mentioned before, doing so much damage with the high power Zarya. And Divine end up taking map 1.
Absolutely. So Divine looked a little sloppy there on that first map at Night Market, but absolutely pulled it together. Perhaps a wake-up call that they needed to get their heads in the game, and they really bring it back, just absolutely locking out Vanquish on both Gardens as well as Control Center. And now basically the ball is in Vanquish's court to rise to the challenge, because if Divine keep running over them like this, it's looking to be a very short series. So we are going to need to see some changes out of Vanquish to address the newly revigorated Divine roster.
And the first point of business will be the selection of the next map. And it looks like it's going to be Rialto. It was a choice between Dorado and Rialto, and to be honest, Rialto is looking pretty a little bit more favorable considering how the meta has been looking.
Yeah, a lot of people are preferring that Rialto pick simply because a lot of people are practicing, obviously, the very tank-heavy lineups, and Rialto lends itself to those play styles, whereas Dorado has a lot of points that require completely different compositions. You could realistically be looking to play 3 different team comps on Dorado, depending on what stage of the map you're along. So with that in mind, it's not surprising that people are preferring Rialto because it's a lot more static. You can pretty much get away with a couple of minor variations to the composition. You don't need a complete changeover for the second stage of Dorado like you often do. Second stage of Rialto, rather, like you often do in Dorado. So it's not too surprising here, but I wonder if it's the right decision considering how much trouble they've been having against the tank-heavy lineup of the members of Divine here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. They are going to be on defense first, so I have to see how that one goes for them. And it's looking like they are going to be bringing out more standard 3-3 lineup. And as you mentioned, for this map in general, or this map in particular, I guess I should say, it just lends itself to this style of composition. The very close quarters, you're looking to play a lot of front to back team fights, and you essentially just want to grind them out for over long periods of time. And to see how this Divine attack wants to come out, and it's looking like it's going to be a little bit of a mirrored Goats compositions.
Yeah, perhaps not too surprising. I was hoping we might see something triple or quad DPS with the Wrecking Ball, but just the usual spawn debate from players. And Payload going to make its way forward. It looks like they're not going for an early fight on the bridge. No, they are. They're all a bit scattered there, but they've pushed in on that. Kyon getting a lot of pressure put onto them, but is going to manage to back up there. So a lot of jostling for position here.
Yeah, with the Discord Orb onto Kyon, had to be very careful. He was taking a lot of damage, but does walk forward, just starts swinging that hammer with the help of the rest of the team to get in there. As he's forcing his defense all the way back, as the Reinhardt is going to be the first one to go down, and they cannot stick around too long in this fight, as they do manage to take down the Brigitte as well. And there's really not much that this defense can really stand to do once they start losing that front line. And this is looking like a pretty clean opening fight here for the side of Divine.
Absolutely, and it's actually probably going to be difficult to even get a second fight here on A. It looks like they might be able to, yes, they should be able to get one more contest here because they did keep someone on the payload contesting it while the fight was going on. So they are going to have this fight here, but there's a big shatter from Dr. Mitchell there.
Yeah, big shatters on both sides, but the Transcendence comes out, and now here comes the Graviton. Mech Explosions being thrown in for good measure, and it looks like the fight is just going to be trading kills back and forth, but throughout it is looking much better for the side of Divine. The kills are just falling in their favor, and it looks like throughout all of this, they will be able to secure this first checkpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. Divine managed to walk through there, and it really looked like, especially when that first big shatter came out from Dr. Mitchell, that maybe the defenders would take it back, but a quick grab there from Hygia equalizes that, and then they managed to trade up kills much better during those ultimates. That said, the fight does manage to at least draw out a lot of resources from both sides. You still have to say that Divine have the advantage here, with Kyon being 92% to that next shatter, though. This could be very dangerous for the defenders.
Yeah, Kyon has just been almost fearless on his front line, just throwing out that hammer left and right, not really worrying about the repercussions. They do manage to get another good shatter out. They manage to drop 2 to the ground, take 2 out, and then they just keep the fight going. They do end up losing their Lucio, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a small price to pay for such a very dominant fight.
Absolutely, and a really nice team play to set up that shatter as well. You can see Dr. Mitchell actually got booped backwards as the shatter was coming down to open up a couple of players from the members of Vanquish there. So really nice play. I couldn't see if it was the Brigadier or the Lucio that actually did the boop, but a really nice 1-2 punch nonetheless.
Here comes the Big Bang combo. Doesn't really get anything. Sent to the bloody moon. So not able to get anything out of that. And here comes the response. A good Earth Shatter that puts so many members of Vanquish onto the ground. But because they were in the Graviton, they weren't able to immediately follow up. But now they just keep on rolling their way through. Kyon is just an absolute monster on this front line. Just throws that hammer around like it's just going out of style. And they have completely cleaned up Vanquish and will secure the second checkpoint.
Yeah, 5 minutes on the clock is a bit of a warning sign, and they are pushing up to get those staggered kills as well, but they will not be able to get any extra ones there. But this, as much as this third point is so defender favored, 5 minutes is a very long time on that clock. We're going to need to see some big plays from the members here of Vanquish. They need to start stabilizing this defense and setting it up. Here comes the Shatter, but there's the Trance.
Yeah, good Transcendence to help the team out, but they do manage to get the Lucio with the mech explosion, and that does cause the retreat out of Divine. For the first time, it seems, throughout this push, they have been halted, and they are going to lose a few more members, give a little bit of extra charge over to the Vanquish members, but all things considered, not too bad of a position for the side of Divine. They have more than a bit of time to work with to get as much as they can on this third point, because as you mentioned, it is a very defendable position. Any kind of progress you can get on this third checkpoint, well, it's kind of a win in some...
Absolutely, Phoenix. That was the fight win they needed, and they did it reasonably cheaply as well. So that's exactly what they needed. They now have Olam with the Grav online. They do have to worry about Hygia's Grav as well, but they've got the Transcendence in the pocket, and unfortunately for the attackers here, they don't have such a tool. But Logical getting demeched early is not a good start. They need to maybe commit some resources here.
And speaking of investing resources, it looks like a lot are being thrown around. There's no one gone down just yet. As I say that, Dr. McCall gets taken down, and that's a good start to the fight for the side of Divine. They do take down the rest of the front line as they just completely melt. Logical is able to stall out this point for just a little bit longer, which is going to help out in the long run. I'm going to be able to clean up that Diva, but a very strong fight here for the side of Divine. They're going to be able to at least get to this entrance and push in just a little bit, but
yeah,
it is going to be a bit of a tough defense.
And that one hurts as well, because that is a fight that Divine should have lost if Olam had committed the grab. Olam holds the grab, and now, unfortunately, the members of Divine have their defensive support ultimates available to cancel it out.
Oh, a massive shatter puts almost everyone of Vanquish onto the ground as they just follow through with just so much conviction to end up going down to the mech explosion, but it's not going to be enough to hold back this onslaught from Divine, as they are just going to swing everyone off this point. But they do manage to stall for long enough that this Wrecking Ball is going to be able to get in onto the point and stall up just a little bit longer. The grab comes
this could be what they need to stabilize.
Yeah, they do manage to stall that long enough to get some members to stick around on the point, but a good mech explosion from Tafiki manages to take down two, but as they are starting to lose members as the defenders' spawn advantage is a little bit too strong, they end up getting forced back.
Yeah, really touch and go there, but some amazing Diva bombs from both Divas actually, just firing it up over the top, and unfortunately the Reinhardt's not in position to shield for their team.
Ooh, a shatter goes out but doesn't get anything out of that, and they are just going to end up getting taken out so easily. The Transcendence is going to be stalled on the point, so they just hold on for just a little bit longer. Good return shatter, and this should just open up this entire push, and that is going to be a full push coming out for Divine.
Yeah, you got to be happy with that one. They did manage to bleed the clock down to about 1 minute and 40 seconds, but at the same time, finishing with that much time on this map, you've still got to be happy with that. I mean, 1 minute
finishing
36
it all,
the time.
to be honest.
Yeah, just finishing it all is a great position to be in. Finishing with over 1 minute on the clock, even better. Definitely not a time to be sneezed at, considering how difficult this point can be to capture, especially if you're not able to snowball it through in that first push. So definitely still a big uphill push for the members of Vanquish here. They've shown the signs of life. They've shown they can do this. They need to now put it into action and really bring the fight to the members of Divine to try and trade this one back, get their own full push, and take it over into Time Bank.
And as you mentioned, they need to get this snowball rolling. We saw that in that first round where Divine was able to just get those first couple of kills in the first fight coming through those narrow choke points. And from there, they took the push all the way through to the third, almost through to the third checkpoint. But we need to see something similar out of Vanquish if they want to have any kind of chance. Because if they're trying to just scrape by, they're going to really struggle. And interesting composition coming out for Divine. They're going for a bit of a squishy lineup with snipers covering a lot of those longer sightlines.
Yeah, we've seen this recently as a good defense for here. You let the cart roll into this courtyard, and then you just set up your double snipers with those sight lines, long sight lines from different angles, and you just jump your dive tanks onto whatever they hit to finish it off. It can be so hard to deal with, especially if you're running a very ground-based goats composition that just can't get on all these high ground distant positions. So we've seen this be a very effective defense for this first point. And Olam going down there early, getting kicked in the head with MacMan is definitely going to give the attackers pause here. Let's see if they run back and actually swap up their composition, or if they are going to try and push into this with their tank heavy lineup.
Really unfortunate. I'm not sure what would have given it away. Maybe did the Sonic Arrow just kind of clip the Sombra as she was walking the way through, and maybe that gave the idea over to MacMan to send that shot out and just clean up and completely shut down that offense, as they do manage to take down Cansation with Hygeia on this Widowmaker, doing very well, as very bold play coming out of Kyun on just diving all the way in, not even scared of getting taken down, because he's very aware that he's got a couple of snipers at his back just willing to just pop heads left, right, and center. They force this offense back before he can get anything done.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Kyun went deep, but it wasn't that deep. Like, he's a good Winston, and he could measure the distance. He was staying out of the swinging range as much as he could at the Reinhardt, and just trying to be just out of there. You do have slightly more range than the Reinhardt on Winston, and sure enough, we are going to see some swaps here from the attackers as they pull out their own Winston to try and deal with that. But still, this is not the easiest defense to beat, but Kyun going down early is a big start.
Yeah, the Resurrection comes through, as does the Dragon Strike, to just force away the Vanquished members from that high ground. But here comes the Transcendence on the point just to get them moving just a little bit more. They do dive in onto more vulnerable members of this defense as they are starting to make their way forward. Mech Explosion does come through, does actually manage to take down Olam. Nicely done there. Does force out that Sombra, but throughout all of this, the card has just been pushing out throughout this entire phase. But Hygeia does start to come online, takes down two heads, does get taken down by the Lucio, but throughout all of this, the rest of the defense has started to make their way towards this cart. They have just stalled out this cart just 2.5 meters before the checkpoint.
Absolutely, and that's all you need. As long as you've got more than a centimeter, you've got enough as the defenders, and so we are going to see another reset from the attackers. 1 minute 30 left on the clock, or slightly under, means that they've really only got 2 more cracks at this. That said, with the EMP from Olam online, that could be big, but with how spread out this defense is designed to play, it could be hard to get a big EMP. Well, they are still all caught in a room at the moment. This is going to be big.
Oh, massive EMP, but Olam gets taken down immediately. They do end up getting a couple kills on the back end of it, though, so they are starting to win out in the fight. The Resurrection does come down onto Kyun, but they are losing members still throughout all of this, and it looks like Vanquish might be able to get this first checkpoint.
Yeah, you'd certainly hope so, because the defense there from Divine is designed to play very spread out, and they were not. So they absolutely deserve to be punished for that. And sure enough, we will be seeing the cart roll through, buying some much needed time for the members of Vanquish as we head into the streets phase.
Yeah, now we see.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to mention that they are now switching over their composition, because as you mentioned, they want to. It was more designed for that first point defense. MacMan is going to throw out that Dragon Strike just to create some space.
Yeah, I think that'll be for a hero swap. I think they're going to be getting off Hanzo as well.
Yeah, the hack does go down onto Hygeia as they are starting to make their way forward. The sound barrier to keep moving forward, and also the Primal Rage just to slap their way through. Transcendence does come in to help out on the defensive side of things. There's a good Mech Explosion takes out Aprella on the back line. So they managed to take down Lucio as well, and that is a lot of the support of this offense is completely gutted, so they have to get forced all the way back. And this defense is playing it very far forward, wanted to force the members of Vanquish right back into spawn.
Oh yeah, you absolutely got to try and push through and pick up those pursuit kills. Now, the downside to their composition swap here is they are going to be much more susceptible to Olam's EMP, and that will be coming up next. That early kill onto Jarmez is absolutely huge as well. They may not even need the EMP to win this next fight.
Yeah, Graviton comes out. Hygeia gets taken down immediately, as does Kyun, and as you mentioned, they don't really need too much to clean up the rest of this fight as they just completely roll through. And it looks as though they should be able to at least capture this second checkpoint. unless Divine want to get there in time to just stall out just a little bit before this third point, second checkpoint. As a good Earthshaker comes out, but a good EMP in response, but it's just not enough as the rest of the team was on the ground and they're starting to lose members to have already been taken down. There goes a third as his defense yet again holds it just a bit over a meter before that checkpoint.
And that was so close as well. If they hadn't gone for that recontest, there was a real potential of them getting snowballed through third off the back of that EMP. It was absolutely the right call to go for that recontest. Obviously, the members of Vanquish actually tried to avoid committing the EMP because they wanted it for Snowball. Unfortunately, they put it in because they realized they needed to win the fight, but it comes in a little too late and they're still not able to win it up. So now we're in a very dangerous position, especially with that Grav coming out.
Yeah, here comes Ultimates, left, right, and center. Explosion takes down Cal Station. That's the Lucio out of the fight, and now they're just slapping themselves silly back and forth. Kuhn gets taken down, so that's the Reinhardt down, who has been doing so much of the work throughout these fights. Here comes an Earthshatter to try and take down McMahon, but does end up missing it. But they do have the advantage, having that more advanced front line as Kyung goes forward, does get put to the ground as they did end up trading, but Jarmes is going to get taken down. That's a good kill here for the side of Vanquish. The mech almost going to take down a good EMP onto the backside. They don't manage to get anyone out of it just yet, but a good Graviton, and they just roll straight through from there, and that should definitely secure the second checkpoint.
Absolutely. I don't know if they needed to commit the Graviton there, but I can understand the feeling that they need to, given that it was overtime. They needed to win that fight. Better to play it safe, commit the resources, and make sure you get it across the line. But it is going to hurt their chances at getting this one across the line here at the end. That said, they still do have Dr. Michelle's Shatter, and they've got their own Transcendence as well. They've got tools. There's a great Shatter from Dr. Michelle. This could be it.
Oh yeah, they also take out Kyun on the backside as well. He was just split up, and the rest of the team just couldn't really get out of the way from that Earthshatter. No one else goes down throughout all of that though, so they are going to be able to set up a strong defense as this card is making its way through these front doors as Kyun doesn't manage to get his way back into the fight. We've got 45 seconds left, not much in the tank here for the side of Vanquish, as the Earthshatter gets thrown right into the shield. MacMan gets taken down. That's a good start to the fight here for Divine, or for Vanquish, sorry. It's a good Graviton, gets responded to by a Transcendence. Get a lot of kills back and forth as Ultimates are being dropped.
To knock the Reinhardt aside to get that kill on the logical, and this is looking very bad.
Oh, massive EMP, but I'm not sure if there's enough around to really make the most of it. They do manage to take down... Oh, Aprilla's actually just coming alive on this kill feed as MacMan has had to go over to the Doomfist just to get back to the fight in time. We have Kyun coming back into it as it's almost coming into overtime, and throughout all this, they have to be very brutal about sticking onto this card as the members of the defense are managed to get back in time, as it's a very small, short time between spawn and the fight, as they are going to pull back for just a small second just to regroup for just a fraction of a moment, but they're trying to get back to the point, but they don't manage to get there in time. They mistime it, and this card is going to go all the way through.
Very, very nicely played there. It was a bit of a desperation situation for the members of Vanquish there, but they get a good EMP, hits a lot of the front line of Divine, and then Aprilla just absolutely clicking heads and deleting things. And for the longest time, it wasn't Tafiki, it was Hygia on the Zarya, is on critically low health, just trying to balance between I need to help out the fight and I can't afford to step out and get killed. Does eventually get chased down, but that was really just off the backs of the supports there at the end, just holding their ground, holding the line, and allowing reinforcements to come back from the attacker's side, which is a long walk, to eventually get it through by continuing to just trade up the defenders' trickling respawns. So really nice plays there from Kelstain, from Aprilla, and from Tiger Bro to absolutely keep that fight alive long enough for their tanks to make it back.
Yeah, and now we're into extra innings. Only a minute on the clock here for the side of Vanquish, where we've got 2.5 the side Divine. So Vanquish, they have to do a lot of heavy lifting in their own push, or else they are going to have a very rough time trying to hold any kind of position. We saw just how efficiently Divine were able to push in their first attack, and now we have to see how...
And look at where Jarmes is. That is going to be going for a sneaky Lucio boop as he gets the early scouting on the team. He has been spotted out though. He does need to make himself scarce, but really nice position there from the Lucio to get that early scouting.
Yeah, and they even get a good. Olam does get found out, but they're not able to really make the most of it as Dr. Mackerel is going to be the first one to go down as they even take down Olam throughout all of the scuffling as the rest of this offense is going to get forced back. They need to reset. They don't have the time to be bleeding out some of these extra kills. They do manage to get back to safety before they lose anyone else, but with less than 20 seconds left on the clock, they have to manage get one good push left as they are making their way to
Olam's going for the rush EMP, and at 58%, there's a real possibility that they are able to get this up in this fight if they can stay alive. They're looking to build it. Kyun's hacked out, which is going to put a lot of pressure on the front line as well. But it's still just exchanging things. There's a shatter, doesn't land.
Well, it does manage to get 2 down, and it does manage to stall out the fight for a little bit. The Transcendence comes out from Dr. Meme to help out with this defense as they just rush all the way forward. The Graviton and the good EMP, and they just completely lock out this defense. It was looking a little bit shaky there for this offense for Vanquish, but the good ultimate combination comes out, and they completely wipe them off the face, and they are going to be able to push so very efficiently. You were talking about getting that very quick EMP, and it pays off huge.
Yeah, absolutely. That said, we will have a recontest here. Kyun going very deep by themselves as an opportunity to punish. And Olams gets the early DMEC onto Tafiki as well.
Yeah, they do have the Graviton, and they are going to start rolling their way through. Kyun with the left click is just going to be able to take down a couple of members. Does manage to get another shadow for himself, and that should just completely shut them out as... It did get to that first point, but it doesn't really matter when you just get stalled right on it. And that is going to be... Well... For how much time, I guess, Vanquish had, that's a reasonable amount of distance to get.
Yeah.
But now they have to defend that for 2.5 minutes. Whereas it's doable, but in that first round, we saw how quickly things fell apart. We need to see something really change for them to take this map.
Absolutely, we really do. But this first point can be, depending on how and where they set up, almost as hard to crack as that third one, despite the attacker respawn advantage. That courtyard can absolutely be a nightmare to deal with, and it's going to be on the members of Vanquish here to make that courtyard an absolute nightmare to take. That said, they are going to be running the same old 3-3 Zen-based Goats composition. Tafiki's actually bringing out the Sombra of their own by the looks of it. Although we may see some late swaps there, because I think Dr. Meme has picked Wrecking Ball and Spawn just about every time, so let's not read into that too much.
I just go by the rule of thumb. It's like, if they're on attack, I wait until like a second to go before I really pay too much attention to their compositions. And as you mentioned, he is changing it back over.
But we will have Hydra on the Sombra, so they are going to be running this attack Sombra here. They've obviously seen how effective it can be, and they're going to run their own. So it's going to be interesting to see here. The defenders basically have 2 fights in their bag to try and hold this one, and that early kill onto Aprilla means they've probably lost the first one. Oh, and there's a pause there as well. That's a bit unfortunate.
Yeah, Jamez actually calling the pause. We'll have to find out if it's some lag issues or something of the like, but if throughout that they do manage to get the first kill onto Aprilla, and that is a good start to this fight. Not having the Zenyatta, that's a lot of the healing, a lot of the damage output, especially when it comes to this kind of 3-3 composition. The Zenyatta with the Discord Orbs is so incredibly important to the amount of damage that this composition can bring out. A good charge in from Dr. Mackerel doesn't manage to get anyone out of it. They do end up trading another 1-for-1, but still, the fight is looking very good for the side of Divine as they clean up the rest of this fight. Logical trying to stall out for just a little bit longer, but can only do so much as the Baby D.Va. But because they do manage to die rather efficiently, they're going to be able to come back for one strong defense.
Absolutely. They've got 1 fight left on the clock. Unfortunately, Dr. Meme is going to have a Transcendence for that fight, which is not a great position to be in. And they are 80% to the Earth Shatter, now 90%, so Dr. Mattel should have the Shatter here. Olam's not far from their own grab as well, so they are winning the ultimate battle in the tanks. But Hydra is almost unmolested on this Sombra. There's the Shatter. It's big.
Massive Shatter, and even the follow-up from the Bionade just completely shut out that Reinhardt from the fight. They good EMP in response, but then they wanted to keep this fight going, as they do manage to get a couple of kills for themselves. They're taking down a lot of the front line. The mech explosion does get thrown out, doesn't manage to get anyone with it. Logical measures to get the mech back as well, is able to hold up this defense for just a little bit longer. Dr. McCurl does get taken down, and that's a lot of the tanks, or a lot of the front line taken down, as the Zenyatta's does come through. He's because of Graviton, there's Transcendence from both sides. But the fight is going to keep on going. A good Earth Shattered, and they managed to take down Calsation. That's some of the healing, some of the maneuverability, and more of the stall. And the cart is going to keep on pushing. The Reinhardt does come through for one last defense, but they're going to get completely shut out. And it looks like, well, they did get to the payload, but now they're just going to push it just a little bit longer.
Absolutely.
And that is going to be the map going over to Divine. They go up 2-0.
Absolutely. And a really nice play there from the Sombra. It looked like, you know, there were a couple of early kills over, and some people might have questioned there, but that EMP, absolutely huge. They still had their win condition intact, and you absolutely see it follow through. They're able to mop up all the members there of the defense. There's a couple of scattered members able to stall out the cart, but it's really only a matter of time from thereafter, because the spawns are just too staggered, and they're coming through in ones and twos, just not able to trade up. Meanwhile, the couple of members that did go down from Divine able to reinforce the payload as well. And so it just becomes harder and harder for the defenders to dislodge it. So really nicely played there to open that one up.
And to be honest, in both of those second pushes, the Sombra play was very good. Like, those EMPs were so very impactful. We saw Olam just get that massive EMP to follow up on the Graviton, and that just completely shut out the Divine defense. And on the response, Hygeia just completely shutting out the defense with a well-placed EMP. It's just, we're just seeing Sombra come into the meta more and more, and especially around these 3-3 compositions, and just completely shutting them down is just so powerful.
Absolutely. I mean, it's always a trade-off when you bring out the Sombra. You are giving up basically your Diva to bring her out. So you are trading off some things. But at the same time, if you're pretty sure that your opponent is going to be running that sort of 3-3 composition, while you do have the slightly weaker front line because you don't have the Diva to eat some of the damage you may want to, you can sort of trade off there. And as long as your front line is able to stay alive long enough and provide enough pressure to give your Sombra the space, she can be so hard to actually deal with, because there's not a lot of members that can really afford to detach and go and chase down that Sombra. And of course, she's got a lot of tools available to her to make her very hard to catch. As long as she plays it smart, plays it safe, stays out of the range of the Brigitte, it's very easy for her to get a lot of free damage in and get away unmolested. So it is proving to be a very dangerous pick.
All right, now map 3, Vanquish. They decided to go to Rialto, didn't work out for them, and now they have chosen to go to Hanamura. To be fair, it was the choice between Hanamura and Temple of Anubis, and I very much understand why we're going to Hanamura when we have the choice between those two.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people not particularly fond of Anubis. That said, again, I feel like if you're struggling against this tank-heavy lineup, maybe a change of pace is good. At the same time, we've seen just how devastating the double sniper can be from the members of Divine. And if you're going to Anubis, you are encouraging them to run that as well. So it's sort of, it is a bit of pick your poison. And obviously Hanamura, probably the map that these teams have both practiced on a lot more. So better to at least take it to familiar ground, I suppose.
And it's one of the maps that, well, because everyone's playing it, you're seeing a lot of the strategies that a lot of the top teams around the world have been using on this map. You're seeing some of the responses to the more established meta that teams have been using. So there's a lot more data about this map than something like Anubis that, yeah, as you mentioned, like, we just haven't really seen it as much.
Absolutely, but we will be seeing Olam reprising their role on the Sombra once more for the defense, and we will be having a quick pause as well. HSP. Is it a halal snack pause? I'm not sure, but...
I wouldn't mind one at the moment, to be quite honest.
Okay, so it looks like at DC, unfortunately, and that's actually a big one as well. Logical leaving the game now means that, unfortunately, the defenders are probably going to be without their Zarya for the first push. That is a rough position to be in.
That's an awkward. Yeah, that's a really awkward timing. I'm not sure if we can get a restart for that. I would
It's a
hope
reasonable
so.
question. Neither
Yeah,
of the teams have seen each other, so certainly they wouldn't be giving up anything other than some time. But at the same time, I think the attackers are within their rights to say no. But at the same time, yeah, it's not like anyone has seen each other's comps at this
yeah.
stage.
It looks like
Now going to allow the restart, so
that. Yeah,
that's fair enough.
that's
It's a nice thing to do.
good sportsmanship on the side of Dwayne. They could be like, nah, just run, just deal with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
It's
it's
good. It's good to see. I mean, they are up 2-0, so they probably don't really feel the pressure to use the rule book to their full to the full potential in order to clutch out the win. And it's always better to see teams, yeah, erring on the side of sportsmanship and friendliness to allow for a better experience for everyone.
yeah. I was waiting for like the pause to come in so we could actually get it back in rather than just
Yeah.
have it saved. I was like, this is an awful long time for no pause when we wanted a restart
Well,
so we can get him into the
to be
game.
fair, it is only the assembly period,
It
so
is
it's not
true,
as
yeah.
if it's not as if it's not going to be dead time. So a little bit less of that, and it's going to be interesting to see what we see from the attackers here because it looked like they might be running the Sombra again, but they have, of course, made those last second picks before. So
Well, it was Hygge who was hovering on the Sombra. There was a few. I saw a wrecking ball in there somewhere. That's the kind of hovering that I'm just like I'm just gonna wait until you walk out of those gates.
yeah, I think Taviki has hovered on Wrecking Ball pretty
I
much
think it was
every
Dr.
time.
Meme
So.
who was hovering it previously at one point.
I've actually got the stream up because the delay still has their old comp in there, so I'm cheating a bit. But
Oh, there you go.
you.
Well, I think it was Dr. Meme in the previous map who was hovering on the wrecking ball. Might have been one of them. I can't remember
Yeah,
exactly.
you're not wrong. Well, I think it has been Dr. Meme previously that.
But the wrecking ball, like we've been joking about it a little bit about the whole hovering and all that kind of stuff. But the wrecking ball, like wrecking ball compositions, have made a bit more or been brought up a little bit more often, especially with those quad DPS compositions.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a really dominant composition when played well. We saw a lot of it in the Open Div finals, but it's something that requires a very high caliber of teamwork and individual mechanical skill from the players. So obviously, it's understandable that not every team is able to pull that one out because not every team is going to have a flex support and a flex tank that are able to go over to those high mechanical demanding DPS characters and get huge value out of them.
Yeah, and also because you are playing so limited on durability and limited on healing, you have to play. You're essentially playing on a knife's edge throughout the majority of it. On the front line, you have to be very aware of your own limitations and very aware of how limited the healing is at your back, and you have to be very trusting in the rest of your team to be able to really finish off a lot of those kills that you're trying to set up. So, as you mentioned, it's very high skill composition that needs to be that you need in order to bring that one out. But it is a lot of fun to watch when it works well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely a composition that trades up really well. Worst comes to worst, you can almost get away with losing someone if you kill a high priority target because you still have so many other DPS sources available to put the damage in, even if you're one down. So it can trade up really well, and we've seen it. It's going to be interesting to see if we do see something like that coming out here, or if it's just going to be more tank on tank action.
And even if you have an Ashe, if you lose a tank, well, you've got a backup.
Absolutely.
Bob
It
is
wouldn't be
absolutely a
it
monster.
wouldn't be more than once in my ranked games that I basically swear under my breath and go, "Fine, I'll initiate," and press the Q key because our tanks
You need the
don't-
donkey whistle. It's just like you need that tool that's just like, hey, everyone, just go, just do the thing. Because you have all these situations, like not just Overwatch, in a lot of games where it's like team coordination is like everyone's sitting on these tools, like not sure if they want to pull the trigger because they don't want to be blamed if it misfires. So you end up just having players and teams just do nothing. and a lot of the time that kind of indecision is what is essentially the death knell for a lot of teams because they don't want
Absolutely.
there's that fear of messing up that just causes them to just essentially shut down. So sometimes you just need that one tool to just be like, hey, everyone, go, do it.
Do the thing.
Exactly.
And
sometimes if it's throwing a big mech boy at them, so be it.
So be it. Absolutely. But we are unfortunately still just waiting for the return of the
Lodge?
yeah, now missing Logical. As I scroll up to even remind myself, there's a little bit of just the usual random chat that you see when these games get paused.
Yeah, it's talking about Apex stuff.
Oh, is that what it was? That makes sense.
Yeah. God, I've been playing that. I usually do not like Battle Royales, but I've been playing it. I was like, God damn it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people really jumping.
The only other Battle Royale I'll touch is Tetris.
Is that a real thing, or is that
Tetris
just
99? It's actually 99 people playing Tetris at the same time, and only one will stand at the end.
Okay, wow. I just assumed that Tetris Battle Royale was a meme.
It was for the longest time, but then Nintendo was like, you know what? Let's do it. Anyway, pause is done. Logical's back in. Let's get into this game.
Absolutely. And so we are once again going to be seeing the same defensive composition from the defenders here, perhaps not too surprising. Olam on the Sombra, and it does look like maybe, just maybe, we do see something interesting out from the attackers, but maybe they were listening to stream and are just looking to debate us.
Just have to wait and see, yeah. Well, I'm not too sure we're going to see a Doomfist at this stage, but...
It would be impactful, but no.
Yeah, I was like, MacMan, you've been on like Brigadier duty this entire...
Oh no, what is this?
We do get another pause. Hopefully it's just lag. And not DC.
Oh no!
Logical
And Logical is DC'd again. That is... Oof. You gotta feel that one. And you gotta imagine that we're probably not gonna get the map restart this time, because that one is... yeah, same player. Second before we leave spawn.
Yeah.
That's a feels bad. And,
this is a really unfortunate situation. I mean, like, I've had that kind of thing happen, like, back in the day when I was just, like, playing games. I was like, my net is, like, kind of just crap in the bed, but I'm back. And then a few seconds later, it's gone again. It's like, I know that situation, and it feels so horrible when you're playing with, like, a bunch of friends, and you're just like, I'm so sorry for ruining your day.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just casual playing. That's not a tournament match. Div 1 for Ascent here as well. So I think now it looks like the members of Divine are going to insist that the pause timers are enforced because they don't presumably want to be trapped here in a pause all night. So it looks like we may be starting up with a 5v6. Which is not going to favour the defenders on Vanquish whatsoever, but we will be starting it up now.
Funnily enough, 5v6 doesn't favour the 5.
No, that's some big brain analysis right there.
As we do have the attackers finally making their way through, as they are actually going to be running with this Wrecking Ball. Tefeki is going to be stunned to roll his way through. Does manage to get a good engagement onto the backside, as it's going to be a little bit easier to pick them apart, but so far it's looking pretty good for the defense. Seems like this rather overzealous offense has managed to split themselves apart and lose 2 members in the process.
Yeah, it's only a 5v6 if you bring all 6 of your members to bear against all 5 of theirs. If you set up a series of 2v1 engagements against you, then sure enough, the numbers advantage won't be there for you. And so the defender's able to hold off that first push, and Kyona's pushed in all by himself. That is once again an opportunity to, at the very least, farm free ult charge off as well. Yeah,
and now Tefeki has gone back to the D.Va, understanding they need to play it a little bit more respectfully as a good Earthshatter comes down, puts 2 to the ground, but they don't manage to follow up just yet. Olam has been taken down, so now it's a 6v4. They're starting to make their way in towards the point as the Transcendence come out on the defense, as the hack does go down onto one of the members, I do
Kyun is
believe.
really low there if they're able to push through and punish.
Yeah, they're taking them very low, but they just don't have enough members. Being down a member is really starting to bite them in the rear, as they just don't have enough damage to finish off those low members as they end up losing the fight. And it looks like this point is going to be successfully captured by the offense.
Yeah, and look at those ultimates available to Snowball as well. So this is looking very rough here for the members of Vanquish. They are going to be staring down the barrel of an EMP bomb combo, and there's a couple of defensive ults available to them as well, should the attackers find themselves on the wrong end of the ultimates.
Yeah, good Bionade, but responding ultimates are being thrown out left, right, and center. Kyun's got to be the first one to get taken down, so a good start to the fight for this defense. This evens the playing field. I guess it's one way to look at it. It's good. Earthshatter comes down, but gets taken down before he can really follow up on it in any way, shape, or form. The fight is being taken to the point. They're just trading back and forth, but it looks like the defense is going to be able to hold on for just a little bit longer, as MacMan is going to get taken down, as well as Calsation is starting to light up the kill feed as is Lucio. And
Yeah, absolutely. Getting the early kill onto Kyun on the Reinhardt really does do a lot to equalize this fight and push the favor back into the defenders. And Kyun, unfortunately, is going to get caught out there as well. So that's going to be another late stagger as well. Maybe the defenders are able to buy enough time for their sixth player to make it back. Who knows? But at this point, perhaps not something you can count on. That said, they do have Olam's EMP up, and that is absolutely something you can count on for this next fight. Just as I say that, Logical has reconnected to the lobby, so this may be the turning point here for the members of Vanquish.
Yeah, they do have their sixth member, and they are going to need everyone and every hand on deck for this defense, as McCurl gets stunned down and knocked off that top ledge, as they are going to throw out quite a few ultimates. A good Earthshatter, but gets completely responded to by a great EMP, as locks out 5 members of this offense from Divine, but they don't manage to follow up on any of it, as the EMP in response doesn't really get too much out of it. It's going to be forced all the way out. They do start to take the fight back towards this point, as they are rolling the way through. Kyun managed to take down Calsation, as they also take down the front line. Kyun is just been a madman this entire series on that front line with his Reinhardt. Is not afraid of anything on the front line, trusting in the team to have his back. They almost get the full capture, but they do manage to get back for a defense, but because they had to really just rush to get there, they're not able to set up any kind of consistent push, and this first round is going to go down in favor of Divine.
Yeah, absolutely. They get the full cap there, and they've got a fair bit of time left in the bank. They are just over 4 minutes there, so it's a great position to be in. And Vanquish, I mean, they were playing from behind on that. They were running 5 versus 6 for the majority of the defense. The fact that they managed to bleed almost 4 minutes off the clock is an absolute credit to them, and they did really well. It's actually somewhat ironic that they the big fight loss for B happened after Logical had reconnected, but they are of course still playing from an ultimate disadvantage, as Logical has only just made it back, and they're playing effectively off role, as people had flexed around their positions to provide them the best chance of hold there. But now they've got the opportunity. They can potentially blaze through here if they're able to punch through, get a really nice snowball, and get the really quick cap that we know is possible on Hanamura. They have a chance to start their comeback.
And to be honest, like 4 minutes, that's kind of a standard almost when it comes to time banks going into like extra innings. So like to be able to hold them to that, as you mentioned, manage to hold them to that as 5v6 for the majority of that, that's pretty impressive, and something that they can work with. And now they will, of course, they have to actually manage to get the 2 points for themselves if they want to have any chance at contesting that extra 4 minutes, as the defense is going to be a little bit more standard, and they're even going to be throwing in that Mei for a little bit of extra control. We saw just how good Hyjeo was on the Mei when we were over at Yijang Tower.
We will have the early scouting here from Olam though. They know they're running into the Mei now. Let's see if they make any adaptations due to that. It looks like they will be rolling out with these 6, so they are going to stick on the Sombra.
It's still going to be very hard to just walk through here with this composition. Like, now they do see that the Mei's going to be there, but they're already split up and they can't really get in there to help, as Dr. McCurl is going to be taken down, as is Tiger Bro. And April's going to be next to go down, and that is a very quick fight. And I believe that now the note
Olam's
they
getting staggered out here, yeah.
yeah, they need to make an adjustment to the composition. I don't think the composition that they
no.
bring in as
It's a
conversation
different player.
conversation is going to be the one to disconnect. That's unfortunate.
Ouch.
But
That-
also,
yeah.
that composition, now they know the May's there, they have to make an adjustment because you can't just walk in against that May. You need to bring that verticality we've seen.
Absolutely. The
teams
thing is,
pick it
they
apart
knew
with,
the
like, a
May was
hammer.
there. They scattered it out with the Sombra, and they still chose to run into it. And they are punished for their hubris.
Yep, as they are making their way back towards the point, towards this choke point. As the rest of this defense is going to be very safe and very comfortable on this defensive hold, as Kyun is going to be able to get a couple of kills for himself as they just rush all the way forward, yeah, and they're just going to be able to clean them up without too much of an issue, really.
Yeah, well, you have to. The other thing to take into account here is the psychological state of the members of Vanquish. Like, there is no way they're having a good time right now. Not only are they behind, and they've got the pressure to try and turn this into a reverse sweep, but with now a second player DCing, separate to the previous one, there's no way they're in a good mental state, and it's absolutely going to show in their play.
Yeah, it's not a good time for them as they're just going to get completely locked into this point, into this small building, and they're going to get completely routed as... You don't hear the bell because there's only 5 people taken down, but
No, there it is.
there it is. All the people going down. As they did end up taking one down in response, but it's not really enough to really put a dent into this defense. They do end up switching over to, or Topeki ends up switching over to the Tracer just for a little bit of extra style points, I believe, as they're going to be able to make their way through this front door. As a good Earth Shatter from the rear manages to put several to the ground as they start to make their way forward. Logical is going to be the first one to fall. Hyun does get taken out, but it's not really going to matter. Yet again, they're trading one for the entire team. It's not really the best of trades, I would imagine.
No, absolutely not. And it certainly does look like the defenders getting very aggressive here. They're pushing their numbers advantage right from the get-go. And there is the potential to punish them for that, but even then, that's only going to get you A, and there is still point B to deal with, and you can be assured that even if they don't take you seriously on point A, they're definitely going to... Oh, overlapping support ultimates there is a bit unfortunate.
Yeah, Pulsebomb does go down into Logical, but doesn't really manage to finish them off. Fire's going to keep on going, and Earthshatter gets thrown out, puts a couple to the ground. Transcendence is going to keep the rest of the defense nice and healthy. And yet again, they are just going to roll all the way through. Cleanup duty is going to be there. Kyun has just had a lot of fun on this kill feed throughout this entire series. And it's just 30 seconds left for this final push. We do have a couple of ultimates to work with,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
as you mentioned, it's already a tough task to 5v6 and take this first point, but then they'd have to get the second point and then defend for about 4 minutes.
Yeah, so there's the grab getting thrown in. They do unfortunately overlap the grab and shatter once again. That is going to be absolutely devastating, and not getting value from that grab either. Kyun is just absolutely monstering on this Reinhardt, and it's just clean up here now for the remaining members of Vanquish.
Yep, and now just a party shatter to clean it all up, and Divine do end up winning it. It is a 3-0. It was a nice competitive series, but unfortunately some disconnection issues did end up marring it a bit at the end, but still Vanquish put up a very strong fight.
Absolutely. I mean, as we mentioned before, just having that almost 4 minutes off the clock on the defense on a 5v6 really is a testament to just what these players can do, and we've seen great things from them. It would be nice to see them in their full form with all their players here and see what they can do, because they obviously did show some great signs of life throughout this series. Definitely a lot closer than the scoreline would indicate, but unfortunately Hanamura a bit of a wash due to Australian internet.
Yep.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's just how it be sometimes.
Yeah, unfortunately that's how it is, but not to take away from Divine's win, who were very powerful throughout the entire series. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing more of them because they look like a very powerful team.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good to see, like, we've also seen some variations out of them. It wasn't just the 3-3 goat strat the whole time. We did see their double sniper defense on the first point of Rialto there, and it did look good. So they've got more than just the one trick in their hat, and they're definitely going to be a strong team as we make our way through this season.
Yes, and well, that is going to do it for us tonight. Thank you everyone for watching. There will be more Ascent to come in the following weeks, but as for now, that is it for us. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.